Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the third of our three-part series on job search resources that you can access through Wilton Library. It's been a great series. We've all learned a lot about these resources, and I see a lot of familiar names. Looks like many of you have been to all three. That's great. In a moment, we'll be hearing from Diane Bizzle from Brainfuse, which supplies the product called JobNow. And we're going to learn all about how you can use JobNow in your job search strategy. We're going to keep you muted with the cameras off. If you have questions, use the chat box, send the chat to me. I suggest you don't send it to Diane because she'll be busy presenting, so she might not notice what's in the chat box, but send it to me. If we can address it on the fly, I'll forward it to Diane right away. Otherwise, we'll address them at the end. I'm also going to put my colleague Melissa Baker's name and email in the chat box right at the end of this little intro. She's in charge of all of our electronic resources, and you can certainly get in touch with her directly if you have questions for her. So with that, let me turn it over to Diane and enjoy the program, folks.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So the first thing that I want to do is just show you where to find the JobNow service on the Wilton Library website. So there's actually two spots. There's under popular resources, you can go right to JobNow, but there's also this new page, the job and career resources, where you can scroll down and JobNow is right here. So I actually have the web page open already, and I'm going to go through all of the different aspects of JobNow. But I'm kind of going to jump around a little bit. So you see it's in like this order on the page, and that's not how I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it as if I am a beginning job seeker. So there's just a couple things that I want to talk about first. When it comes to our live experts, our live coaches, they all have at least a 4-year degree. We reference and background check. They do have to have HR experience. We do have them do like a mock session where they review a resume and do a practice interview. So we do all this like training and stuff before we allow the coaches to work with you guys. In addition to that, we do have supervisors for all of the live sessions. So that way, if you are working with a live coach and there's a technical difficulty or maybe their shift is coming to an end, what our supervisors can do is they can put a new job coach into your session so you don't have to disconnect and reconnect. So I'm going to apologize. I am working from home and I have dogs. Hopefully they'll be quiet, but we'll just ignore them. All right. So I'm going to start with this little search box right at the top. So this is just a search tool that aggregates jobs from Indeed.com. So if you are just wanting to find some different jobs that you can apply for, this is a really quick way that you can do a search. One thing that you might notice here is that we do have a notification that our services are unavailable on Independence Day, which is this Saturday. Just so you know what that means, the live coaching is not available. So as I'm going through this, there's a lot of different asynchronous tools or tools that you can use without connecting to an actual live person. And those are available 24/7. So you just would not be able to connect with a actual person on Saturday. And we always have that little message up when we do not have tutors available on the different federal holidays. So I'm going to start by taking a look at some of the resources in the career section. If I were beginning my job search, or I know like right now with unemployment rates because of COVID. There's a lot of people who have been laid off or having to switch career fields, trying to figure out something else that may work for their personality. We have a couple of different self-assessment tools where you can, they're like career aptitude tests that you may have taken at some point in your life. So these are under the career assessments. And these ones are linked to a few different websites where you can do the self-assessment tools. But in addition to these links, we do also have a partnership with eParachute. And this is co-founded by the late author of What Color is Your Parachute, which is one of the top job-seeking career guides. eParachute is one of my favorite tools to use in JobNow, just because it's fun and intuitive, and it's kind of neat to see different job suggestions. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you exactly how this works. So when I click on eParachute, it is going to ask me to either log in or create a username and password. So I'm going to show you exactly how to sign up. You just click that sign up link and it takes you to this page. All you're doing is creating a username and a password. So we're not collecting any personal information. We don't collect your email address or your name or anything like that. It's just the creation of a username and password. So that's important for you to know for a couple of reasons. One, of course, for privacy, but also when it comes to being able to access your account again, because we're not collecting your email addresses, there's not a way for us to email you a password reset. So what you would need to do if you do happen to forget your password is email or call our tech department, and all of that information is on the login page. There is a Forgot Your Password link where you can get that information. So I recommend either writing it down or using something that you know you're going to remember. And that's it. So I've signed up for my account. Super easy. So I'm going to go through the little process here of eParachute. It's a simple, intuitive 4-step process. And at the end, what you're going to see is potential career fields. So the first step is to think of some things that you would be really interested in doing. And there's a little list here of brainstorming questions. So you can think about, what would you do if money wasn't an issue, or do you know someone who has a really cool job and you'd like to do something like that? And what things are you naturally good at? So for me, and this will also be a little fun fact for you, I do a lot of jigsaw puzzles. So I just think it would be so cool to be able to work with jigsaw puzzles in some way. I don't know how, but I'm just going to put in here like a jigsaw quality control. I'm interested, and I don't even know if this is a thing. I'm just making this up on the fly. I'm interested because I would get to be around puzzles. And I can add as many different ideas as I'd like. As soon as I am done, I'm just going to click Move On, and it's going to take me to the next step where I'm going to figure out the types of people that I like to be around. So I'm going to imagine that I'm at a party and there's all these different groups of people around the room. And of these groups of people, I'm going to determine which group I identify with the most. So when I'm looking at these titles, I might not know what some of these mean, like what is conventional. So conventional is people who like to work with data. They have clerical or numerical ability, carry out things in detail, or follow through on others' instructions. So for me, that's probably not so much my personality. So I'm probably going to go with artistic. And I'm going to imagine now all those artistic people have left, and of these remaining groups, what group of people do I identify with the most? And now all the artistic and enterprising, so I'm going to choose my last group. And what this is doing is it is creating your Holland code, which is simply a way to help determine the best people and work environments that fit your personality. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm that and move on to my favorite fields. So when it comes to the fields, I'm going to choose 4 fields that interest me the most. I can choose more than 4. I need to choose at least 4. And just like when I was looking at those people types, I might not know what some of these words necessarily mean. And if I put my mouse over the eye, it's going to give me a little bit more information about that particular field. So it is giving me a few suggested fields based on what I've answered. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick those 2. And then, okay. I'm going to move on to the next step where I'm going to confirm these are the fields I love the most, and then I'm going to compare each one against each other. And this is just a way to help figure out different fields that would fit my personality. So I'm going next to the skills. So this is focused on skills that I love to use and helping me figure out what my transferable skills are. So like I mentioned, I know a lot of us are having to maybe switch careers unexpectedly or just trying to figure out what we want to do. So by thinking about these different skills that I either have or really enjoy doing, it helps me figure out things to include on my resume, as well as things for figuring out careers that I would like. So for the skills, they are organized into 3 different categories: working with ideas or data, working with people or animals, and working with objects, things, or physical activities. So I'm going to choose 5 different skills. And I'm just going to click next to move on to the next step. Again, I'm going to confirm and compare each one against each other. I'm just doing this quickly. And then at the end, it's going to show me 32 featured career ideas. So when I go to the Work Explorer, I'll see that there's a score. The higher the score, the more closely it matches everything that I've answered. As I'm looking through this, I can hide ideas or careers that I may not like, and I can favorite ones as well. And then I can go in further. So I'm going to click on this one, and it's going to tell me responsibilities, people types, fields, skills, average annual salary, degree level, abilities, work styles, and common job titles. So when it comes to actually doing your job searching, I really like that there is this big array of different job titles. It just gives you a lot more options of things that you can search for when you're using, if you're using job search websites. It gives you a lot of different keywords rather than just saying like, you know, like a manufacturing supervisor, you could say like labor supervisor or mail handlers, just depending on what is most interesting to you. I'm going to go back to the JobNow homepage. And I'm going to go into the job resources. And this is where you can actually do some searching. So one thing for you to know, anytime we are providing links to external websites, these have all been vetted by our curriculum team. By that I mean, you're going to be able to do the job searching without having to pay. That's something that we see a lot of for job seekers. You will be using a resource. We see it a lot with resume builders, and you'll go through like this process of setting up your resume, and you'll get to the end, and they ask for your credit card for you to save it. So we just make sure that everything, all the links that we provide are going to be transparent, and you're not going to be surprised by having to enter in any credit card information. So there are both nationwide and local resources. Nationwide, we have it organized into 3 different types of job seekers. So we have the general job seekers. So you'll see some familiar websites here, like monster.com, Career Builder, and Indeed. There's job sites for students and recent graduates, and then job sites for veterans. Now with the local resources, these are all for Connecticut, New England, and we do have the general job sites, the job sites for students and recent graduates, and the job sites for veterans specific to your area. Okay, so now I figured out what I want to do. I did my job searching. I found a job to apply for. Let's say I have to fill out an online application for the job, and I'm not really sure exactly how to navigate that. I can connect with a live job coach, which is this first option in the column. And the coaches really are there to help you with anything in regards to like the job searching, application, and preparation process. They can help you fill out those online applications, help you figure out, you know, the best places to do your job searching, help you evaluate legitimacy of different positions, that kind of stuff. So now I'm ready to prepare my resume. We have a couple different tools for resumes. So the first thing I'll show you is the resume resources, and these are just links to some different websites. We do focus a bit on military translation because translating those military skills or military career skills to civilian career skills can be a little bit complicated. So we do have direct links to just some different tools that will help you translate those skills. My personal favorite tool here is the Career One-Stop Resume Guide. It is a super detailed guide of just like different things to put into your resume. I'm a type A person, so I can never be too prepared for something. So I just really like how detailed this is. So in addition to those different resources, we do also have some resume templates. These are all Word documents. So we do have a functional, a chronological, and a combination resume template. The most popular and most preferred resume layout is a chronological resume. And this is the one that you're probably most familiar with, where you do your resume in reverse chronological order, starting with the position that you've held most recently and moving backwards through time. So I'm going to go ahead and download the chronological template. And what you're going to see here is This template is not only laid out for you, but each section includes a description along with an example. So it's just making it easier for you to know what to include in your resume and what the different sections mean. For a long time, the standard with resumes was including an objective, and those have really kind of gone away in more recent years. The reason behind that is objectives are stating what you want to do, and that's really not that meaningful to a potential employer. Instead, what they want to know is what you can do for them. So when it comes to your profile, it's really just capturing your resume at a glance. It's also a section that you should absolutely update for every position that you're applying for. You should actually, and I'm going to talk a lot more about this, but you should be tailoring your resume for every job that you're applying for, which sounds like a lot of work, and it definitely can be, but I have a tip that I will share with you. So when you write your resume, what you typically do is you'll have your experience where you have your bullets of different things that you've done at different positions that you've had. And sometimes you'll have some experience that doesn't relate to a particular job that you're applying for. So you're not going to want to have that on your resume. What I recommend doing is kind of creating, I like to call it like a master resume, where you have everything on it. You have all of your work history, all of your bullet points, just in one like master document. That way it makes it easier for you to pick and choose the different bullets that complement your, the position that you're applying for best. There is this software called applicant tracking software. If you're not familiar with it, it's used by many, many companies today. And what it does is it searches resumes for keywords before the resume even gets in front of someone's eyes. And about 70% of resumes are rejected just based on that initial ATS step. So it's really important to make sure that you are tailoring your resume. So for example, let's say you are applying for a job, and in the job description, one of the requirements is that you are proficient in Microsoft Word. In your resume, you put Microsoft Office and not Microsoft Word. Your resume is going to get rejected because you're not including Word. Even though Word is part of Microsoft Office, because the requirement in the job description is Microsoft Word, you need to have that keyword in your resume in order for it to move past that initial screening software. Just scroll down just so you can see the rest of the layout here. So we also, in addition to the templates, have a partnership with a resume building software called Optimal Resume. And this software has a lot of different tools in it. There's a lot of different things that you can do. When you come to this, because it is a partnership, there are the terms of use that you can read through, and then the privacy policy, there's a link here. You'll need to agree to this in order to use the tool. And then it is going to ask you for your personal information. So it's asking for this because it's going to auto-populate this information onto the resume templates that you build. That being said, if you prefer to just put generic information, go for it. That's what I always do. I always just put in generic information Save and continue. And then here's all of the different tools that are available. For today, we're just going to include, or I'm just going to talk about the resume. So I'm going to click on Create New Resume. And I'm going to put Demo as the job title, or excuse me, the resume name, and click Start Resume. So Anne has a question. Is it recommended to include the home address or not? That's a good question. And I'm actually not 100% sure. The rule of thumb from what I learned when I worked with an expert in HR was you don't have to put your resume, or excuse me, put your address on your resume. Particularly, I would say if it's if you're looking for a position like remote work, I wouldn't put my address on there for privacy. And like if you're applying for something local, I think that it's totally fine to put your address on your resume, but ultimately do what you're comfortable with. If you don't want to put your exact address, just put your city and state. That's a good alternative. I personally no longer put my address on my resume just because privacy issues. I don't want my home address out there. So with Optimal Resume, and these do, when they auto-populate, they do automatically include your address on it, but you can edit them. There's 3 different ways that you can build your resume. You can browse by samples, you can browse by section sets, or you can start from scratch. I recommend using the samples because it gives you a really solid starting point, and there's over 500 sample resumes. What you can do is you can narrow these resume samples by the job field and then by the experience level. So let's say I'm doing construction and extraction, and I'm entry level. So it's narrowed those over 500 results down to 10 sample resumes. There are some tips over here for writing the best resume. These tips are specific to the categories that you've chosen. And then when you scroll down to the samples, you'll see that each one has a job title at the top to give you, you can pick a closest match to the position that you're applying for. So I'm just going to I'll just do this one for my sample. So this is where I can edit things. I can remove my address here. And as I'm editing my resume, everything is automatically saving for me. So I don't have to worry about, making an edit. You have to click save in this section, but the whole resume is then saved. So as long as I remember to do that, I'm in good shape. So I would just come in, I would edit each section, update it for my position. I really like bullets. I think those are way better because you don't have a lot of time to make an impression. So I'm going to change this just to bullets. So on average, when a resume does get in front of someone's eyes, they're only spending about 7.5 seconds looking at it. So every word on your resume matters. You want to make sure that you are using action verbs or power verbs, and really focusing on accomplishments and achievements at your different positions. So this tool does start to get a little bit more complicated the more you work with it. So up here at the top, there is a help document. I'm going to open it in a new tab. And this goes through everything that you can do within the resume builder. It has all the screenshots, all the details for you. So it's a really great document to keep handy if you are choosing to use Optimal Resume to build your resume. You are also able to download your resume from here in a few different formats. So Word compatible, PDF, HTML, and plain text. And you can also share it with this link. This is what it would look like. And you can print. So it's just a really nice tool, and it does give you those different download options, which is a fantastic thing because sometimes a job will have a requirement for a specific type of document to send when you're applying, and being able to download it in these different formats makes that a little bit easier. So now that I have found a job to apply for, I created my resume. I applied for jobs. I want to get some feedback. So there's a couple of different ways I can get personalized feedback on my resume. I can connect to a live expert, or I can use the Resume Lab. So I'm going to go in to the Resume Lab, and this is a way for you to send your documents to our resume coaches. You would just upload your file from your computer. That's typically what people do. For your reference, CloudPack is virtual storage that Brainfuse offers. I will say it's not used that much because there's a lot of tools out there, but it is available if you need to save things, and like if you're on the public computer and you need to save documents. So there's a comment box where you can put any comments for the resume coach, just things that would help them better evaluate your resume. You would probably want to put the job description because the resume coaches can help you make sure that you're hitting those keywords and help you try to get past that initial ATS software. I have an example of resume feedback that I'll show you just so you can know what to expect if you're using the Resume Lab. So our coaches do fill out this template where we're giving you just some general information about the Resume Lab and about resumes as a whole. And then after that, there's going to be a copy of the revised resume and a copy of the resume that was sent in. So for this resume, this is what was sent in. And the resume itself is pretty good. It has a lot of detailed information in it. It has a lot of percentages and achievements and numbers, which are all things that are really key to include on your resume whenever possible. However, the layout of this is just really difficult to read. The indentations are not consistent. It's got to focus more on the years of employment versus the job titles. So it's just not the best layout. So what our resume coach did was they actually opted to switch this particular format from chronological to a combination resume, where the focus is on the different skills. So combination resumes are really good when you have different positions that are in like the same field, or even if you're switching fields, it's just a good way to highlight transferable skills. And the resume coaches also will include comments and suggestions on the actual resume. Those are what's in red. So if we look at the first part here, the resume coach recommended that you include the profile or headliner on the resume, and they put an example of what this person could potentially use. And then when it comes to the bullets under the qualifications, they're really asking questions to help determine accomplishments. So for example, there's a bullet here that says, develop targeted email campaigns to key decision makers. And for this, there's really a lot of people who can write an email. Most people can write emails. If you have access to a computer, you can write an email. That's not really that important. What's more important to the potential employer is knowing the results of that campaign. Like, was there a good click-through rate? Did lots of people view the email and click on any links that were in it? Those sorts of things are what's going to be more important. And then after the skills summary, there is the professional work history, where the focus here is on the positions, which is, again, something that's more important to the employer, and then also the educational background. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the JobNow homepage. So now I have submitted my resume to the resume lab where I worked with a resume coach. I have that all good. I sent it into a potential employer, and now I need to prepare for an interview. So there's a couple different ways to prepare for an interview, and interviewing has definitely changed recently with COVID. A lot of companies are doing video interviews. There's a lot of differences now with the interview itself, like etiquette for wearing a mask and that kind of stuff. So our curriculum team, I don't think they've added it yet. No, they haven't added it yet, but they will be adding resources specific to interviewing during the pandemic, because, like I said, it has changed a lot. In any case, what we have available now is these different interview tips that really help you prepare for potential questions. In interviews, a lot of times you'd be asked to, like, tell me about yourself, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, those types of questions. And preparing for those, knowing what the potential employer is looking for when they're asking those types of questions, is a really good way to feel comfortable walking into an interview. The more that you're able to prepare for the interview, the more comfortable you'll be. Interviews are definitely something that I personally find very nerve-wracking. I've done lots of different interviews over the years. I've done panel interviews, and those are really daunting. But by taking the time to prepare for the interview, that's really, really helpful. There's also some interview tips, and these are ones that our curriculum team has actually put together. And for these tips, I think they're really great if you don't have a lot of time to prepare for an interview. You can come through and you can look at these tips and feel prepared pretty quickly. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go to Ask the Interview, and you can see that, well, this needs to be updated a little bit. I'm going to put a note so I can get the curriculum team to update this shake hands, because that's not We don't shake hands anymore. In any case, I'll get the curriculum home. I know they're working on doing the updates for COVID. I'm just not 100% sure their timeline, but I'm going to note that for them. Anyway, when it comes to shaking hands, obviously we're typically not doing that anymore. I don't think really any face-to-face interviews are doing handshakes. However, if you don't have a lot of time to prepare for an interview, coming to these interview tips is just a really great quick way to get better prepared, like knowing that smiling is a really good thing and looking at your interviewer. You don't want to stare at them, but making eye contact, that's another really great way to be prepared and be ready for the interview. So we do also have live interview coaching, and I'm going to pull up our classroom. I have a little demo session. So this is just a interview coaching session. Typically when you come in and you do interview practice, you are using the chat box, which is over on the right. For the demo, we used the whiteboard just so it's bigger and easier to see. This is another area of Brainfuse that we will be updating. Our tech team is working on video components for the classroom, so that way if you are preparing for an interview and like you're not at the public library or anything and you can do a video practice, we're going to give you that option. This is another thing that will be coming soon. Again, I don't have the timeline, but just so you're aware. However, in the meantime, you can just come in and you can prepare for the interview by practicing the different types of questions and really learning what the potential employer is looking for when they're asking those types of questions. And that's a really great way to get personalized feedback on what you might say in reply to those specific questions. Another thing, just so you know about our classroom, it is HTML5, so it does work on all platforms. It works on Chromebooks and tablets, desktops, of course, works on Mac and PC, all different browsers. Just so you know, it should work on basically every device. If you are doing live, like resume coaching or something where you want to share a document with your job coach, you can drag and drop files and share them that way. There's also an attach icon here next to the chat box where you can actually upload files to the classroom. I'm going to minimize this. So one thing I forgot to tell you is if you're using the Resume Lab, where you go to get your feedback. So I showed you the feedback, but I forgot to tell you where you go. So with the resume feedback, you get your feedback typically within 12 to 24 hours, and it goes to your message center. So in order to retrieve that, you would need to come back to Brainfuse, log in on your account. You'll see a notification on the top here. You can either click this, inbox, or you can go to my message center under the drop down. So sorry, I forgot to tell you that. That's pretty important. So that's where you will find both the resume that you sent in as well as the feedback from the resume coach. We do have a couple supplemental tools that I just want to show you real quick because we are getting close to the end of our time and I want to make sure that I leave a few minutes for questions. So there's two other tools that are more supplemental tools for job hunting. We have an Adult Learning Center, which is up here on the top, where you can come in and you can build different skills. You can prepare for different standardized tests. So you can build skills for math, reading, writing. You can prepare for high school equivalency tests or the U.S. citizenship test. And you can also work on some computer literacy skills. So it's just some academic skills that can help refresh different skills or help you earn different skills that you may need for different careers. We also have seen, because there's been a switch to online learning or distance learning in a lot of school districts. So at the end of this past school year, we've seen a lot more parents logging in and just getting help so they can help their children. So that's another thing to just be aware of. And then the other section that has some additional supplemental tools is Skill Surfer. So I'm going to preface this by saying this is pretty extensive as far as the content that's available. The best thing for you to know is this is where we have all of our standardized practice tests, our lessons, and our videos. So I'll scroll down and I'll give you a little brief overview of each of the different sections. There is a section for high school entrance test preparation. So we do have some standardized tests in here, along with some lessons and videos for skills. So if I go to algebra, it's organized by all the different key topics. I can come in and I can watch a video on writing expressions and equations. I can read a lesson and just kind of learn about how to do that. There's practice questions and answers at the bottom. There's the high school equivalency test. So we have those in the Adult Learning Center as well, but we include them in Skill Surfer. When it comes to standardized tests, we do have these preparation guides. And essentially what these are doing is taking information from the standardized test prep books and just breaking it down. So if you are getting ready to take your GED and you just want to know what score you need in order to get your GED, you can come here and you can just click on what score should you need for. And you'll be able to see pretty quickly that the passing standard is at least 145 points. So that really makes it more straight line for you. With some of the different topics in Skill Surfer, you will also see an option at the top to get live help. So if you see this and like you're preparing for the GED, you get confused, you want some additional help, you can just click this link and it's going to get you connected to a tutor. And the tutor will be able to help you with the questions that you have. So again, this is just on some of the different topics within Skill Surfer. And then with the actual practice tests themselves, they're pretty self-explanatory. They'll start with the introduction. You answer your question, click next to move on. It is automatically saving every question that you've answered. So if you do have an internet connection or you're on a public computer that has a time limit on it, you run out of time, everything that you answered is automatically saved for you. So you don't have to worry about having to go back and redo what you've already done. And then after completing the practice test, it actually has a summary where for some of them, you'll be able to get live help on building any of these different skills. You can also see each question, the correct answer, the answer explanation. Okay, so there's the college entrance test preparation, PSAT, SAT, ACT, AP, TOEFL, TOEIC, CLEP, SIA, and nursing school. College Now is all about the college application process. So it focuses on like writing your college essay, filling out that application, just the steps that you take if you're applying to college. College placement test is the AccuPlacer. in the college section, this is where there are some lessons and videos where you can build some skills for basic college level courses. Career prep and job resources is super extensive. There's a lot of information in here for various different careers. There's practice tests. There's just like general information about different careers and credentialing you may need. There's also some job resources and interview preparation, computer literacy, and professional writing. The nursing school exams are in a separate section, as well as being up in the college entrance test prep section. And then next is the praxis, which is the test for educators, the ASVAB, which is the military test. Computers and technology focuses on computer literacy skills in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, as well as a couple of computer programming languages. We have grad school entrance test preparation, online research skills, which is lessons and videos on how to effectively research online. Adult resources, which is your skills building. It's basically the adult resources is pretty comparable to the Adult Learning Center. It's just in a different place. And then there are resources for ESL, focusing on reading, writing, and grammar. So like I mentioned, this section does have a lot of information in it. So just knowing that you can come here to build skills and take practice tests is probably all you're really going to need to know. There is a search, so if you know you are getting ready to take the GED and you struggle with geometry, for example, you can just search for geometry, and it's going to pull up topics and lessons for you, just to make it easier for you to find the different topics that you'd like to work on. So, all that being said, I want to wrap things up and make sure there are no other questions. Okay. I was just making sure, I was running through my head to make sure I didn't forget anything. I don't think I forgot anything that I typically talk about, but I am very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thanks, Diane. That was a great overview. This is a tremendous resource. I don't think I've actually looked through it in its entirety the way you just showed it to us. So this is great. I just want to mention that I didn't get any questions in my chat box. And with the audience size that we have, I think that if somebody wants to ask a question, they can go ahead and unmute themselves. Just let's try not to have too many people trying to talk at the same time. But yeah, if you want to ask a question, just unmute yourself and ask away.
Diane, do you have any aid through your program with marketing plans, which is typically advised when you're trying to network with individuals during the job search? Do you know what I mean by a marketing plan?
I don't.
Okay. I mean, it's basically a one-page, typically leave behind with someone you're trying to network with that summarizes your background and your skills and exactly what you're looking for in terms of industries. And,
okay, so it's
in those industries.
Kind of,
and what,
is it kind of like taking, basically like if you have a LinkedIn profile, kind of having that on a leave behind?
Somewhat. I mean, you know, you're basically the goal is to make the person you're networking with really comfortable in terms of what he or she might be able to do for you, in terms of people they might know in a given industry or company within that industry that you could network with and gather information from.
So
forward. Yeah.
That's really great. I actually had no idea that that was a thing. I'm going to pass that along to our curriculum department and have them, you know, come up with, because we are, like I said when I was talking about this, we're in the process of revamping things, specifically, you know, because of COVID, because things have changed so much. I'm going to ask them to include that in their updates as well.
Right.
Thank you.
The whole thought is that resumes are what you send to apply for a job. Marketing plans are what you use to network with.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
I have a question. I typed it in the chat, but I have a feeling it didn't show up. So if we're on the site and we get stuck and we need help, who do we contact?
You can either talk to the library or you can email Brainfuse directly. I'll type our email. So info@brainfuse.com is the general email if you are navigating the site and you get lost or have any questions. Alternatively, if it is during the live hours, you can connect with one of the coaches. They are very well versed in, you know, the website and everything that we have to offer, so they can help virtually as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, one other question. With regard to the resume templates, can I just go into that section and scroll through and see which template I like and then just create it in Word myself rather than entering it into that program?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, you can even just like go in, find the resume you like, click on it, download it, and edit it that way. That I think would be probably easier than trying to recreate from scratch in Office. But
so click on it and download it.
Yeah, here, I can show you. So I would come in, go to create new resume. You would need to do at least this part so you can actually browse all those different templates. Oops, I already have that title demo one. And browse here. So I'll just show you here with this first one. I would just click use the sample and then I can download it right here. That way I don't have to like copy and paste it. It just makes it a little bit easier to have that formatting.
Uh-huh. And then I
so then I'm able here.
And then I can
then you can edit it.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering, do you happen to know if on the iPad, can I do that? Can I download that onto an iPad Pages format?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'm carrying my iPad with me, and so I would.
I'm not sure. I'd have to test that because I don't know off the top of my head if that's a possibility.
Yeah. Okay, I can test that.
Okay.
Test that and see if it works.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we can take another minute or two if someone wants to get a last question in, but I think maybe we're pretty close to wrapping up here. I want to thank Diane for a great presentation. It's a tremendous resource. I hope you've all learned a lot about how useful this can be to you, and come through the library's website and start using it.
Thanks for joining. Have a good afternoon.